Hello, welcome to my channel. I am Michelle and this is Michelle Creates. In this video, I am going to be crocheting a magic circle and I'm going to be doing the double crochet stitch. Okay, so yarn I'm using is acrylic 4 weight and I'm using my crochet hook, and this is a size I hook. It says it right there in the middle. Okay, that is the recommended size that they said for this yarn. Depending on your project, you can switch hooks. Sometimes I use an H, a little bit smaller, making a smaller stitch, but today I'm just going to use the traditional recommended size. Okay, so to make my magic circle, I am going to take the end of the yarn, and I'm right-handed, so just showing you what side I'm using. Taking the yarn right to the end here and going using 2 fingers and going right where my knuckles are, holding it down with my thumb. I'm going to wrap the yarn behind my fingers, bring it around to the front. I'm going to cross the yarn over top the other yarn right where my thumb is, hold the yarn now down with my thumb, so I'm holding both pieces of yarn, turn my fingers over, and now I've got 2 pieces of yarn right here. I'm going to hold that down. I'm going to grab my hook and I'm going to go underneath the first piece of yarn. My hook is upside down, so my hook is facing down. I'm going to grab that second piece of yarn and pull it through, turning my hook. Okay, so I kind of crisscross my loop there. I'm going to grab onto that loop with my right hand and take my fingers out. There's kind of, my circle is starting. Then I'm going to grab onto my working yarn with my left hand, and I'm going to yarn over my hook. Okay, hopefully you can tell which piece of yarn. Yarning over my hook. Now I'm going to take my left hand, I'm going to switch hands here and grab onto the circle, the yarn with my left hand to free up my right hand here. All right, I've yarned over my hook, turn my hook slightly to the left, and I'm going to pull that yarn through that loop. I'm going to pull this down a little bit to open this up. The first one is kind of tricky. Okay, I'm pulling it through. There we go. That is my first, basically my foundation stitch, my anchor stitch. All right, now because I'm going to be doing double crochets, I need to build my height for my stitches here. So, or a foundation. I'm going to chain stitch. Gosh, chain stitch 2, okay, to start here. So I'm going to yarn over, hook it, and pull it through the loop. There's 1 chain stitch. Taking my index finger, I'm pulling this yarn back down, yarn over, pull the yarn through the loop, and there's my second chain stitch, counting it 1, 2. Do not count the loop that's on the hook, and don't count that first loop stitch down here. That was just your foundation. Okay, now we're set up to do my double crochet. I've got my circle here. I'm going to open that up, holding the tail here. Okay, it's still wrapped, and the circle yarn, I'm going to hold that with my left hand. And from here, I'm going to wrap my hook. I'm going to stick the hook inside the circle, push it out. I'm going to yarn over again, pull that hook through the circle. Okay, taking my right finger here, my index finger, and kind of pushing these loops down so I can see how many loops I have on here. You have 3 loops on your hook now. I'm going to yarn over again, and I'm going to move my left thumb up here so I can pull on it a little bit closer to my hook. All right, pulling on this a little bit to open up this loop. I'm going to take my hook and pull that yarn that I yarned over through the first 2 loops. Okay, get it back in the middle, pull it here. I'm holding my yarn down with my index finger, yarn over, and then you're going to pull that hook through those 2 loops. Now I have 1 remaining loop on the hook, and that just created my first double crochet. Okay, now magic circle. Depending on what project I'm working on, will depend on how many double crochets I actually make in the circle. Typically you start with 6. You can do 8, 12, whatever. Today I'm going to do 8. And you want to do an even number, okay? Just again, whatever pattern you're working on, that usually will tell you. For today, I'm just making the magic circle. I'm not working on a project. I'm going to do 8 double crochets. Here's the next one. I'm going to yarn over, take my hook, put it through the middle of the circle, okay? Yarn over the hook again, pull my hook back out of the circle. All right, I've got 3 loops on the hook, yarn over the hook, okay, pulling this with my left hand a little bit, getting closer here, and I'm going to take my hook and pull it through 2 loops, then I'm going to yarn over again and pull it through the other 2 loops. Now I have 1 loop remaining. There's my second double crochet. All right, let's do it again. Yarn over, go inside the circle with the hook, yarn over, go back out of the circle, yarn over, pull through 2 loops, yarn over, pull through 2 loops. Okay, now I'm keeping my loops a little bit bigger right now, a little bit looser, just so you can clearly see the loops and what's going on here. I don't want to pull it as tight as I usually would because it's just a little bit harder to see, okay, as I'm teaching this. So just in case you're wondering, your loops are a little loose. I typically wouldn't do it that way. Okay, now we're going to go on to the next. How many do we have on here? Let's count, okay, because sometimes you lose track. First, we're going to count the posts here. This is one way to count. Do not count those chain stitches that you made on the side. That's not part of it, okay? You want to start with the next one over, which is actually the double crochet stitch. So counting the posts, I have 1, 2, 3. Okay, we're going to make 8. Another way to count this is turn it to the top, and you can count the stitches on the top. You have 1, 2, 3. Do not count the stitch that's on the hook, and also don't count the ones on the side here, okay? It's only the top. All right, moving on. We're doing the 4th one now. So I'm going to tighten this up a little bit. All right, yarn over, push the hook through, yarn over, pull it back out, pull the hook back out, yarn over, pull it through 2 loops, yarn over, pull it through 2 loops. Okay, again, yarn over, go inside the circle, yarn over, go outside of the circle, just pull it straight back out, yarn over, pull it through 2 loops, yarn over, pull it through 2 loops. Now, if you feel like your stitches are getting away from you, the circle is too big, take that tail of the yarn, the end of it, and just pull it a little bit. Okay, hold on tight to your stitches here with your right hand, and then pull it with your left hand, just to tighten this up a little bit. Okay, and how many do we have? Well, I'm going to count the posts. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, I'm not counting those chain stitches. All right, here we go. Yarn over, put the hook through the circle, yarn over, pull it back out. Yarn over, pull it through 2 loops. My goodness. And yarn over, pull it through 2 loops. Okay, yarn over, put it through the circle, yarn over, pull it back out, yarn over, 2 loops, yarn over, 2 loops. That's kind of what I have going on in my mind as I'm doing this, to kind of keep track of where I'm at, just in case I'm getting distracted with anything. All right, I like to get yarn ready so I'm not pulling on it too tight. And now, let's just say I lost track of where I'm at, so I'm going to count the posts. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, we're going to do one more. Pulling this tighter. All right. With the hook, yarn over, put it inside the circle. Yarn over the hook, pull it back out. Yarn over, pull it through 2 loops, and yarn over, pull it through 2 loops. Okay, now we have 8 in here. Now the magic part of it is we're going to pull on this end. Okay, hold on with your fingers here on the stitches. Keep pulling until it's tight. Okay, great thing about the acrylic yarn, it pulls really nice, it slides really nice. All right, now that's the magic part of it. There's no hole here. Love it. Okay, let's talk about the end here, the tail. So if I'm doing a project that's like a coaster, I'm going to want to have about 4 to 6 inches here on the end so I can take my plastic needle and weave this tail through the bottom so there's nothing hanging out. If this is something, a project that you're working on, let's say they're mittens or a hat, you're probably going to keep this here. You can shorten it a little bit, cut it off a little bit, but keep a decent amount because you could use this to tie a double knot to another piece of yarn that's inside your project here, just to anchor things down. Okay, so that's what's going on with that. Now, how do we close this gap up? Here's another magic part. We're going to do a slip stitch. So I'm going to, only using the top of the stitches here, don't ever use the side. Those are the chain stitches. Using that first stitch right here, okay, you're going to take your hook and you're going to go underneath both strands of yarn. Okay, nice and neat. Don't catch any of the other strands from the other piece. I went under both. Now I'm going to grab my yarn again and I'm going to, okay, yarn over the hook. It's weird because it's coming from way over here. So you'd basically just stick it in front of it, in front of the hook. Okay. And I'm going to pull my hook through both of those loops. And then to make the slip stitch, I'm going to take this and pull it through the loop that was on the hook. Okay, now I just connected those two. All right, closed up the gap here. Pull this a little tighter. You don't want to have this loose like this. You want to keep everything the same, so pull it tighter. That's the slip stitch. Now I'm going to create my next row. I have to do my foundation, so I'm going to do 2 chain stitches. So we're going to yarn over, pull through the loop, and 1 more, yarn over and through the loop. Now I have 2 chains. Okay, now I'm ready to do my next row, which is an increase row. We have to increase our stitches. Okay, this is 8 stitches in here. Now we're going to make 16 stitches going around in the second row. Therefore, your row will be nice and flat. With this pattern, because I only did 8 stitches in here, it might curl, I guess you could call it, curl up just a little bit. If I wanted it to be super flat, I'm probably going to put 12 stitches in here. Like let's say I'm making a big placemat or something flat but circular, maybe a hat. I'm going to put more in my center here, more stitches, but I only did 8. So let's say I'm making a mitten. That's going to help me because I kind of do want it to be a little bit more tubular as I'm working. All right, now we're going to do double crochets. Like I said, we're going to increase. So in this first stitch here, always going under both loops, right? You're going to do your double crochet. So yarn over, insert the hook underneath both strands of yarn, yarn over, pull it through. Okay, I have 3 loops now on my hook. Yarn over, pull it through 2 loops, yarn over, pull it through 2 loops. Okay, there's 1 double crochet. Now increase. We're going to do 1 more double crochet in that same hole. Yarn over, go into that same hole. Okay, yarn over, pull it through, yarn over, pull it through 2 loops, and yarn over, pull it through 2 loops. Okay, now we have 2 double crochets in 1 stitch. That's going to create your increase. And you're going to do this all the way around. So going on to your next stitch, we yarned over and pull through, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, and we need to do 1 more double crochet in that hole. Yarn over, push your hook through, yarn over, pull it out, yarn over, pull it through 2 loops, yarn over, pull it through 2 loops. Okay, we're going to continue doing this all the way around. 2 double crochets in each stitch or hole. And one more. Hopefully I'm not going too fast. Definitely if you're ultra beginner, you're just trying to hold the yarn and figure out where your fingers go and pulling it and not pulling it. So you're probably going to be going slower. I do understand that. I'm definitely not, I've only been doing this for, you know, like a year. So I'm kind of still a beginner, but once you get the hang of it, you're going to be able to go a little faster. Okay, now we're moving on to that next stitch. Okay, so this is basically for the visual of it. If you're watching, keeping track of how many loops, blah, blah, blah. Now I'm going to do one more in there. Okay, you can tell there's only one single crochet in that. You can tell there's two in here. Okay, this is basically just showing you. And now let's say you're working along so you're not watching anymore. You're actually going to do it with me. So I'm going to talk you through it. Moving on to the next stitch. Okay, yarn over. Insert your hook in that next stitch, that next hole. Yarn over the hook, pull it through. Yarn over, pull it through. 2 loops. Pull it through means pull the hook through. Yarn over, pull it through 2, and you should have one more loop on your hook. And again, yarn over, push the hook through that same hole. Yarn over, pull the hook through. Yarn over, pull it through 2. Yarn over, pull it through 2. Okay, moving on to the next stitch. Yarn over, push the hook through underneath both strands of yarn, push it through, yarn over, pull the hook back out. Okay, yarn over, pull it through 2, yarn over, pull it through 2. We need another one in there. Yarn over, same hole, push it through, yarn over, pull it out. Yarn over, pull it through 2, and yarn over, pull it through 2. To get the hang of it, if you're practicing, don't try to make your stitches too tight. You know, practice a few times. If you have to pull it out and start it over, that's fine. I would go a little bit more loose just to practice and get the hang of it than trying to worry about how it looks. Okay, usually if you're starting out as a total beginner, you're gonna want to practice these things a few times just to get the gist of how the yarn works, how the hook works, things like that. All right, I've got 2 in there. Now we're gonna go on to the next one. Yarn over, and one more in that same hole. Okay, hopefully you keep watching this video because every step of the way I give you hints, techniques, and how do you know how to finish things off. Okay, so just keep watching. All right, we're on to the last one. I'll show you how you know for sure it's the last one. Yarn over. Okay, I have 2 in there. All right, yarn over, push it through. And one more. So there's 2 double crochets in each of those stitches. All right, now you want to make sure there's 16 on here. Why? Because you started with 8 in this inner circle. Now you want to have 16 because you doubled it. So now we're going to count it. I'm actually going to take my hook out of this and use my hook to count. All right, I'm going to start with the end here, not counting this loop. Okay, I'm going to count the stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Voila! Do not count those stitches on the side. All right, and it's easy to put the hook back in. Okay, now we increased it. Now we're going to close this gap up. All right, you always want to have this last thing right in here that does not count for that stitch. Okay, that was the last stitch. This was the slip stitch. All right, so getting that hook back in there, super easy. All right, slip stitch. We're going to go to that first stitch here, go underneath both pieces of yarn. Okay, kind of look over your, you know, as you're a beginner, look over your stuff, make sure everything's nice and neat. And I'm going to pull those two pieces, those two loops, this loop here and this, pull it together. Okay. The yarn is tight enough on my hook. All right, so it's not gapping. I'm going to yarn over my hook, pull the hook through the first two loops, and then pull it through that next loop. Okay. Now it closed up that gap, and pull the yarn tight enough so it's on the, you can still move it, but it's tight enough on there. All right, now I've got to, we're going to go into the next row. I've got to build my 2 chain stitches to get the height established for my next double crochets. So we're going to wrap yarn over, pull it through. There's 1 chain stitch, yarn over, pull through. There's 2 chain stitches. Okay, now this next increase row is not going to be 2 in each. It's going to be a pattern of 1 double crochet, 2 double crochets, 1 double crochet, 2 double crochets. Okay. All right, here we go. Right here, you're going to go into that very first stitch, that very first hole. Make sure you don't skip over that. Insert, and we're doing 1 double crochet. Okay, moving on, go into the next stitch. There's 1 double crochet, and you have to do 1 more to increase this row. Okay, moving on to the next stitch, we're going to do 1 double crochet. And move on to the next stitch. We're going to do 2 double crochets in here. Okay, you get the pattern. Typically for your projects, you're going to have that first inner loop 8. Okay, the next one 16. Depending on your project, you could have started with 12 in the middle here. The next row would be 24. Okay, it's always double. Then this next one is not as many. Okay, it's usually the single double pattern, but depending on the project, you're gonna have to watch for that pattern. This might change on this third row, but typically any projects I've done, it's this same pattern here that I've done. The inner circle, the second row, the third row, it's on the fourth row that it will change depending on your pattern or the project. So I'm only going to do this to finish off, and that would be your magic circle. So we are on, we did a single one here, we have 1 here. I'm going to do 1 more to make 2 double crochets in that stitch, and moving on, 1 double crochet. And moving on, 2 double crochets. Okay, I'm speeding up now just to get you to the finished row here. If you need to pause, rewind, whatever, you may do that. This is just to get you to the end of this row, and this is a 1 double crochet. And this one is 2 double crochets. You kind of want to say the right words, otherwise you can get mixed up on what you're doing. Like, don't say single and double. Okay, don't say single crochet, or you know what I mean? Like, say 1 double crochet, because there's so many different stitches. You could all of a sudden start doing a single crochet and not realize it. You'll understand that as you get further along in your projects. And then that was 1 double crochet. Now let's do 2 double crochets. Honestly, with, you know, distractions, someone talking to you, TV, music, whatever, radio, it's easy to get distracted on what you're doing. So it's really handy to have some kind of something going on in your mind, how you can keep track so you don't have to keep stopping and counting. Visually, you can tell what's going on here. Okay, there was 1. Now we're moving on to 2. 1, and 2 in here. And 1. And we're on our last stitch here, so we should have 2 in there. Another indication that we did this correctly. There's 1 double crochet, and here's 2 double crochets. All right. This is not, that's the slip stitch. You don't want to count that. You don't want to go in there. You may also count to see how many you should have as you increased. Okay, I'm going to start at the back. Don't count your loop here. Count your stitches starting right from here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. Fabulous. All right, make sure you don't count those stitches down the side. Those don't count. Now we want to close this gap up. Get my hook back in there. We're going to do a slip stitch, and I'm going to go first stitch here. It's right on top. Go underneath both pieces of yarn. All right, tighten this up by pulling this. Get these 2 closer together. And yarn over, pull it through those 2 loops. Pull it through, okay. Now pull it through the other loop that was on the hook. There's your slip stitch. Now, you know, if I'm going to keep doing double crochets, then I'm going to do those 2 chain stitches again. But I might change it depending on the project. I might change it to a single crochet or anything else. There's so many different types of stitches. Okay. Now, you may wonder, it's curling up a little bit, right? Well, let's say I'm making a mitten. This is literally the beginnings of making that pattern. It's already starting to form. Could be a small hat, you know, whatever. If you want this flat, let's say you're going to make a placemat and you need this to lie flat, then I would do 12 inner circle. You would not do 8 in that magic circle. The inner circle, the row number 1, you would do like 12, okay, to get that flatter. And then, because you'll have more stitches. The less stitches you have in here, the more it pulls. Pulling, it's going to curl up like that. All right, so there's your magic circle double crochet. I hope this helps. I hope you guys have fun. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know if you have any questions or comments in the comments below regarding this particular video. And thank you again for watching. I'll see you in the next video.